Okay, so a few days ago I showed you this pole saw. It's a steel, however you want to pronounce it, pole saw. So you can see it's pretty long. It goes all the way there and it trims branches in your tree while you're standing on the ground. Did the diagnostic on it, and it would run with carburetor starter fluid. So it needs a new carburetor. So I ordered it, and this is probably the fastest I've ever got one in return. Also, it needs new fuel lines. The carburetor came with a new fuel line, but boy, it sure doesn't seem like a lot. Well, maybe it is. We'll check all that out. I got some. This isn't going to be much different, if at all, than changing a carburetor on the steel weed eaters. The only difference is a weed eater, well, as a matter of fact, the carburetor is the same as a weed eater carburetor, same exact one. The only difference is on weed eaters, usually you put these things on, whereas this one has separate fuel lines. I kind of like this system better. It's easier to work with. All right, so we'll take the air filter off. Sometimes you got to figure out the magic trick. It comes, the carburetor comes with a new air filter also. So I don't want to take the housing off unless absolutely necessary, so I'm just going to depress the priming bulb with a screwdriver, and it looks like it's going to come out that way. And the throttle already popped off. It came off on its own. It's an interesting way. It's a little bit different than the weed eater. Take off the two hoses. So I want to look to see how this is operating. So it appears the outside hose is going to the top, but since the priming bulb isn't coming back, I'm wondering if it's backwards. But we'll try it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll switch it. Okay, so here's the hoses. Very brittle and tough. You can see that this one flops around. This one, very brittle and tough. And that's the one with the fuel filter. I really feel like these are backwards though. Okay, so I went and got my fancy doctor scissors. I know what they're called. I really do. But I know that I would get demonetized if I called them out. So they're just you see them in the TV shows all the time. So what I'm going to do is grab that fuel filter and pull that guy out of there. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to cut this out. Oops, didn't mean to hit you in the eye. So I cut that. I tell you, this is the wrong hose. This is the wrong size. It didn't fit in there correctly. So it probably leaked gasoline all the time, which would be really terrible if you're trying to cut a tree limb and the motor's up over your head. So we'll poke this back down in there. I'm going to get some WD-40 to make this easier. Before I do anything, I want to put this gasket on. I always forget to put them on, and then when I check all my components afterwards, I got to tear it all back apart to put this thing on. So we'll do it up front. Now we'll put the WD-40 on the hose. Trying to make it a little easier to thread. What I want to do is I want to get it down in there enough that I can grab it with the fancy doctor scissors and pull it the rest of the way. But this is much tighter. As you saw, the last one was very loose. Let's see if we can grab this now. Yep. And now we want to put a fuel filter on it. Just about got it. Off camera I put WD-40 on it to help slide it on a bit. Pretty tight. Okay, it's on there now. And then we'll put the other hose in. This one doesn't have to go in very deep because it's just the return line to the primer. So I just got to put gasoline back into the tank. I'm putting on the throttle cable. This is a pretty terrible design. So I decided to put the throttle cable on after I get the carburetor on. I think it'll be easier. It's harder to reach though. Okay, I think I got it. You'll see this right here move when I push the throttle. Alright, so we have a gasket here on this piece. put a gasket. Alright, so now we'll put the hoses on. You see the outside went to the top, so that means this one went to the bottom. And we have some excess hose here, so we'll get that cut up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime it and see if, first I need to see if we got enough gas in there, and see if we can get gas to come out on this one. Yep, that is correct. So what I did was I stuck my finger up underneath this one to see if gas would come out. So that means it was being sucked through the filter and out of that short one. So now I'm going to feed the rest of this line in here because we got too much sitting outside. So now we should be ready to put the air filter stuff on. Start it up and see if it'll at least run. Okay, let's see if it'll start. I'm going to turn on the start switch, prime it, choke it. Okay, well I think it's working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to this until tomorrow. I'm going to let it completely cool down. I'm going to start it back up. I might even start it up this evening and then start it back up tomorrow because I like to get 3 tries out of this just to make sure it's working correctly before I contact the customer. So I think we got it. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on a weed eater very similar to this. So if I can inspire you to fix it when you're living your dreams. Thanks for watching.